gerrymandering, redrawing congressional lines. This affects you, and you may not know, and you may ask, how does it affect me? We'll discuss that in this edition of Brooklyn 45. Also in this program, you'll meet a man who has just released a song called Brooklyn, My Home, and you'll see him performing in his video. But we begin with a topic many Brooklyn and New York residents are not aware of and how it affects their lives. Dr. John Flateau, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the importance of this redrawing congressional lines.
Every 10 years, there is in our U.S. Constitution a provision that all Americans are to be counted, and the Constitution also indicated one of the very important uses of that count of all people residing in America every 10 years is to use those numbers or counts to determine representation in the House of Representatives for all 50 states in the United States. That's the mechanism that requires the redrawing every 10 years that there is a national U.S. census. So the most recent U.S. census was just 2 years ago, 2020. The 2020 census compelled that by the way, there are 435 redistricting representative districts throughout the nation. And how that 435 is divided up among 50 states is dependent upon how many people live in each of those different states. I'll give you an example. California is the most populous state in America. Thus, it has already been allocated the largest delegation of congressional representatives in the House. The second largest state in America, according to population and the 2020 census, is Texas. So they have the second largest congressional delegation. And if you come down to 3 and 4, in the 2020 census, Florida just passed or superseded New York State's population. So now Florida has 27 congressional districts allocated to it, and New York State is allocated with 26 congressional districts, congressional representatives in the U.S. House. That's how those 2020 numbers, population counts were used to determine how each state, each of the 50, is going to get a portion of congressional representatives.
I'm reading a New York Times article that states, and I'm reading this: Republicans have been more successful than Democrats since 2010 at gerrymandering congressional districts to their advantage. But the Republican advantage may be about to fade because of a few court cases. I want to talk about the court cases here in New York. I want to talk about legislation that's ongoing now. But how do you respond to this New York Times article?
It is very much accurate, politically accurate, because once the number of districts are allocated, then the next question is, well, who decides how those number of districts are drawn in the state? And the answer to that is the state legislatures. And there are a number of states, I believe the majority of states in America are now controlled by the Republican Party. So that gives them an edge, and they're going to draw districts that are going to favor their political party as they're drawing those congressional districts. And then in those other states that the Democrats control the legislature, then one could assume that they will also do likewise, unless there is some other factors intervening. But in New York, both houses of the New York State legislature are controlled by the Democratic parties. And they drew assembly districts, Senate districts, and the 26 congressional districts for the state of New York. There is an intervening factor that I was referring to. In 2013, the voters of New York State passed a statewide referendum that created a new mechanism for redrawing all of those districts that we talked about. And the name of this body, which came into being by the voters of New York, is called the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission, or in short, the IRC. It's a 10-member body, and it's bipartisan. Half of the 10 commissioners are appointed by the party leaders in the Senate and Assembly. In the majority, which are the Democrats, but they only get half. And then the other half are appointed by the minority leaders in both houses in the New York State Assembly and Senate. So what you wind up with is 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. Actually, it's 4 and 4, and then each of the 4 get to pick their 5th commissioner.
Now,
And
I understand that 5 Republicans don't want these lines to be redrawn.
So you raised a question very shortly. You mentioned something about lawsuits. So what happened in this cycle after the 2020 and the Democratic predominated legislature, then the Republicans challenged those lines. They brought a lawsuit. They filed papers in an upstate court that with a Republican judge, and then that judge ordered the redrawing of the lines, and some of those lines, districts were changed, and it gave an advantage to the Republicans to elect more congressional representatives. They actually picked up 6 additional congressional seats in the state of New York after that lawsuit that they were successful in prosecuting. So
now, many
lawsuits, excuse me.
Go on.
So lawsuits are very playing an important role. This has been going back and forth. Obviously, the Democratic Party didn't just lay down; they challenged it. This matter is still in court right now, in the highest court of the state of New York, the Court of Appeals.
What about the redrawing of council districts, city council districts?
So keep in mind, that's another level of government. That's local government now.
Yes. How does all this affect viewers?
Well, I'll give you one example with the last question about city council. Well, the city of New York's budget is $107 billion. And there are a number of issues in New York City right now: affordable housing, the migrant crisis, and other kinds of issues. Well, it's the mayor and the city council, that body of 51, they need 20. They need a majority to pass a budget for the city of New York, or pass laws or pass appropriations for a number of issues that are confronting New Yorkers. So that's the importance of those legislative bodies. Who is elected? What are their policies and politics are, and how they are going to vote on laws, passing budgets, etc. That's the importance to every New Yorker.
Okay, Dr. John Flateau, we want to thank you for bringing us up to date on this redrawing of lines, redistricting, and we will continue to update our viewers on what is happening.
I want to
again.
Thank you to give us this megaphone, the Du Bois Center for Public Policy and Medgar Evers College of CUNY. We do this kind of work, research, and civic education around issues like this, and we're very thankful that you give us this opportunity to get this information out.
Okay, again, thank you very much for being on Brooklyn 45 and providing the information that you just did.
Thank you, Professor Taitt.
Before we go to our next segment, let's listen to a poem that's been written by Joel Phillips.
This poem is called Imposter Syndrome. It's for everyone who's having a difficult time trying to find out who they truly are. When I look into the mirror, I see darkness, no reflection, but a fog of black instead. No idea of who this person is, what this person looks like, or what changes this person showcases over time. I just see the same darkness, day or night, shrouded in grime. But when you see me, you tell me my future. You sense a time where I will accomplish feats greater than my imagination will allow. You see my scars and you tell me I'm beautiful, forcing me to ask how. You dry my tears and say my heart will change the world, and that my best to come has yet to unfurl. You stated I have wings when I don't recall leaving the ground. I asked, do you see value in me? You replied, I've always believed in you because I've never believed the lie you pretended to be. I returned to the mirror only to find a bright and clear image. The darkness faded and showed before me stood a man with presence, power, and grace, with fierce eyes of intensity, totally unable to cower. Then it suddenly began to make sense, and for a moment, I wondered how could I be so dense? There was no other person, there was no other voice. The man in the mirror said, this is just the best of you when you have a choice. Thank you.
Brooklyn is My Home is the title of a song written and performed by Courtney Noel. And you're about to meet him. Courtney, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Where did the idea for this Brooklyn is My Home come from?
Well, I think the idea was bubbling around in the cauldron of my brain for quite a while. I guess ever since I heard sparrows sing about Brooklyn is my home many years ago. It was all from there. I came to Brooklyn in 1979. But more specifically about the actual creation of the song, I've had this this kind of, I wouldn't say it's a love affair, but between Queens and Brooklyn. My heart's always been in Brooklyn. My family resides in Brooklyn. And every time I moved from Brooklyn to go to Queens, I always find myself coming right back. At one point, I was living in Queens with my family, with my wife and kids, and I would come to Brooklyn every weekend. And my wife would say, why don't you just move back to Brooklyn? So I always had Brooklyn in my heart. But when I actually, the last one was in Queens, I was on the train and I was coming back from Brooklyn and I saw a lady exit the train. And I mean, she was just this lovely vision of Brooklyn beauty. And I put it in the back of my mind, and I just kept thinking, but why is it that even when I moved to Queens, I keep coming back to Brooklyn? And that's when the song started, taking hold, and the chorus started hitting me, you know, about coming back to Brooklyn. Wherever I roam, wherever I may roam, Brooklyn is always going to be my home. And I thought about the people of Brooklyn, and whenever you're at a concert and they say, anybody from Manhattan? Yay! Anybody from Queens? Anybody from Brooklyn? Yeah! There's a big roar that goes up. And I said, no matter who's in the race, once Brooklyn is in the race, you got to settle for second place. And I kept thinking about the people of Brooklyn who become very successful internationally: Spike Lee, Jay-Z, Barbara Streisand, Shirley Chisholm, etc., etc. And the whole song just started crystallizing in my head. And then there we have it. Brooklyn is my home.
Right. Not only in your heart, but in your home.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Brooklyn is my home.
You mentioned earlier the Mighty Sparrow. Of course, there are lots of young people who have never heard of the Mighty Sparrow, but you obviously did. The rhythm of this song, Brooklyn is my home, it's Sparrow's rhythm. That is calypso.
Yes, yes. I'm known in my native land of Guyana as a soca singer. But for me, I am, at my heart, I'm a R&B pop singer. The folks in Guyana haven't heard a lot of the other stuff that I did, but they know me as a soca singer. So soca is something I gravitated to pretty late in my career, and I felt this particular song. The song was birthed itself. There was no way I was going to write a song about Brooklyn that was not going to be a Caribbean-based vibe, soca. I wanted it to be something spicier. Reggae to me always has I'm more thinking about messages with reggae music, and I write reggae music too. But I felt this track was really geared in my head, in my mind, for Eastern Parkway. And ironically enough, I was living in Eastern Parkway at the time when I started recording the song. So it made a lot of sense, it made a lot of sense. Sparrow, I mean, whenever I'm singing it, when I was recording it, I felt his vibe so strongly with that Brooklyn is my home, I mean, what he's singing, mass, play mass, and I kept feeling it. That's what I wanted to convey, my version of that, but with some extra stuff behind it. So that's what became Brooklyn is my home.
When our viewers watch your video and when they listen to the song, we're going to play a bit of your music. There are some parts of Brooklyn that seem to be missing. Is it because you were focusing on the Caribbean part of Brooklyn?
Well, I tried, I felt like I was making a Solomonic decision about, dividing the baby. Because there's so many parts of Brooklyn that I mean that song, that it would have to be an album to really incorporate as much of Brooklyn as I really wanted to. But I tried to be as diverse as possible, and I'm talking about from Red Hook to Flatbush Avenue, Little Odessa, Little Haiti too, from Prospect Heights to Dyker Heights, from Brownsville to Clinton Hill. There's a part of the video that's shot at Coney Island. I really wanted to go to Brighton Beach and shoot there, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I wanted to, because you're looking at the length of the song too, and the various aspects of Brooklyn that I wanted to speak about. The foods, for example, Labor Day, Barbara Streisand, who's has really spread the word of Brooklyn many years ago. Jay-Z, Spike Lee, who is Brooklyn, even though he was born in North Carolina. Michael Jordan, who was born in Brooklyn, but didn't people think he's from North Carolina or Chicago because of the impression he made with representing Chicago. but there's only so much that you can do. I mentioned the motto of Brooklyn at the end, unity makes strength. And I speak at the beginning of the size of Brooklyn. So, you know, it's a big mouthful to bite off, but did the best I could. I think what I'd like to do is have more remixes of the song that would appeal to the Latino presence in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And you know, and there's so much to be done. I speak Spanish too, so that would be a bit of a big stretch. You know, so I've listened to, I mean, I did my research and I checked out the other songs that have been written by Brooklyn. Jay-Z had his hip hop song, I think Brooklyn We Go Hard. You know, the Beastie Boys had their track, No Sleep Till Brooklyn. But I felt that those songs, as popular as they were, and as much as I love them, they appeal to that particular genre. And I think with what I was trying to do is to really reach out to various individuals with a soca beat, soca / kind of Afro pop. But there's so many directions you can go in when you're talking about a Brooklyn song. And I just wanted to be just completely Caribbean. That's why I mentioned Jay-Z and I mentioned Spike Lee and Barbra Streisand. Yeah.
Okay. Courtney Noel, Brooklyn is my home. We want to thank you for being on Brooklyn 45. And I know lots of people, when they hear your sound, they may be saying, you know something, Brooklyn is my home. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for being on Brooklyn 45.
Much appreciated.
Brooklyn, Brooklyn, we love you. Anything you want, you can find in Brooklyn, Brooklyn, we love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the People's Republic of Brooklyn, a gorgeous mosaic, 70 square miles of sheer excitement. Come on!
We come across the water to a place named Brooklyn, Brooklyn. Notoriety and worldwide fame. Brooklyn, Brooklyn. Spike Lee and Biggie represent. Brooklyn, Barbra Streisand vocals heaven sent. Brooklyn, Brooklyn. Everywhere you go, everybody know. If Brooklyn in the race, you better settle for second place. Boy, Brooklyn, Brooklyn is my home. And it can be your home too. Brooklyn, wherever I may roam, I keep coming right back to you. Jay-Z gave the world the flavor. Michael Jordan taught us how to fly.
Born in Brooklyn,
Coney Island, Nathan's famous hot dogs.
Brooklyn,
Do the right thing was made in Bed-Stuy. Senator Roxanne Prasad up in Canarsie. Congresswoman Chisholm, first name Shirley. Everywhere you go, everybody know. If Brooklyn in the race, you better settle for second place. Boy, Brooklyn, Brooklyn is my home. And it can be your home too. Brooklyn, wherever I may roam, I keep coming right for you.
The curry goat, Brooklyn. The Heineken, that's Brooklyn. The jerk chicken, that's Brooklyn. You can find it right here in Brooklyn. The Mabi Bak, the Bacon Shack, the Dal Puri. Brooklyn is all our way.
Brooklyn is my home, and it can be your home too. Brooklyn, wherever I may roam, I keep coming right back to you. From Red Hook to Flatbush Avenue, Little Odessa and Little Haiti too. San Jose, Crosby Heights to Dyker Heights, Brownsville to Clinton Hill. Bed-Stuy, it's do or die. Bed-Stuy, it's do or die. Brooklyn, 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 come on. Brooklyn, 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 I can hear you. Brooklyn, 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 come on. Brooklyn, 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 Brooklyn. My Brooklyn, your Brooklyn, our Brooklyn. Lord, there's no place like Brooklyn, Brooklyn. strength.
Brooklyn is all our way.
Thank you, Courtney Noel. And to you, our viewers, we thank you for watching this program. We invite you to partner with Brooklyn 45 and support our programs. Visit our website, www.brooklyn45.com, and learn more about us and how you can contact us. We are a 501c3 community television program, and when you support us financially, you benefit, and viewers benefit too from our programs. Please tell your friends, your family, your colleagues, and ask them to watch our Brooklyn 45 TV programs on cable TV and on YouTube, and to support and be a part of what we do. On behalf of our Brooklyn 45 team, I am Sam Taitt.
Brooklyn 45 is a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we welcome your support. Check out our website, brooklyn45.com, and feel free to donate or share it with your friends and family. Have any comments or questions? Send them to our Facebook, facebook.com/Brooklyn45TV. If you have any questions or topics you think we should cover next, shoot me an email over at brooklyn45tv@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching.